Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the season finale of Creature Commandos. The episode was called A Very Funny Monster, and as it starts, in a look at the past, a woman is giving birth, and the baby is Nina, who of course was born a little bit different, with a condition that causes her to continuously have water in her lungs, which are almost entirely outside of her body. In the present, Eric Frankenstein is on his way to try to stop the bride from killing the princess on behalf of his dearest friend Richard Flagg, whom he calls Rick, and his Uber driver seems to be a little bit put out by his presence. Meanwhile, the bride is doing what the bride does, killing her targets, in this case the princess's forces, over Nina's objections. At the same time, Dr. Phosphorus notices something on their surveillance footage from the previous days, but doesn't know what it is. When Eric shows up to claim his bride, Dr. Phosphorus wonders aloud if he's a former lover of hers, to which she replies by telling him, "Can it, Ghost Rider?" before shooting Eric multiple times in the chest, causing him to fall from a great height, whereupon she follows him down and shoots him some more. In another flashback, Nina's parents argue over her condition. Her mother says she wishes they had allowed her to die when she was born. But her father, who is a leading scientist, has managed to come up with a machine that keeps her alive, as long as he keeps updating the machine so it grows with her. While her mother seems to think that it's just a form of torture keeping her alive, and she leaves to go stay with her mother. Following this, Nina's dad and a team enact a radical change to Nina's DNA to keep her alive, which of course transforms her into a fish creature. Meanwhile, in the present, the princess ascends a tower in a bathing suit that's part of her morning bathing ritual. Dr. Phosphorus burns his way through the palace walls to get to the inside of the grounds. Back in flashback, Nina's father, who has now fitted her with a helmet, gets her into a special school where she soon finds herself made fun of by other students who call her a frog and terrorize her. In the present, in the hospital, Rick Flagg briefly comes awake and tries to tell Amanda what's going on, but passes back out before he can say too much, though he does manage to explain that the professor who confirmed Cersei's visions is not actually the professor. Back in the past, we see Nina run away from her father, to whom she sees herself as a burden, to go live in the local waterways. In the present, as the princess is swimming, the bride insists that the only one who can get to her, with all the guards around, is Nina, who can approach her underwater, but Nina is very reluctant to do it, though she sets out to carry out her mission. Back in the past, after a while, Nina comes to the attention of authorities and they capture her. And as they're taking her into custody, her father approaches to try to let her know that she was never a burden, but the police shoot and kill him right in front of her. Back in the present, Nina approaches the princess underwater with a knife, and Amanda goes to confront the professor along with John, and of course, they find that she was being impersonated by Clayface and that they were set up to kill the princess. As Nina is stalking the princess underwater, Weasel can't control himself, and he runs in to greet the princess because he thinks of her as a friend after she played fetch with him when he first met her, and it would seem because he seems to think of her as the little girl that he couldn't save. The princess is alerted to Nina's presence by this and turns the table, stabbing her quite a number of times, seemingly killing her, just before Amanda is able to get through to the bride and explain that the mission needs to be aborted. However, the bride later explains to the princess that she saw the princess and Clayface talking to each other on the surveillance tape, and that she knows that the princess manipulated the whole situation to discredit Cersei after she had spilled the beans about her, and proceeds to shoot her in the head simply because she killed Nina, who was the bride's only friend and the only good person among the group, before leaving the palace, tears streaming down her face. Before the episode ends, John escorts the bride to a special room at Bel Rev where the whole Commandos team, which now would seem to include a very much upgraded GI robot and King Shark, as well as new members Nosferatu, the vampire, and Kalis, the mummy, will train and recreate and be under her command. In a post-credits clip, we see that Eric Frankenstein is still alive and yet again breaking bread with a seemingly strange local woman. So I did not know that this was the season finale. That caught me by surprise. I thought that there were 8 episodes this season. There were only 7. So this was the season finale, and which I didn't know. But I think it works really well as a season finale because it was very momentous in terms of things that happened in the episode, yet it leaves things open. And if there were going to be an 8th episode in this season, they wouldn't have anywhere to go with it after what happened in this one, so it makes sense. Anyway, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really, really great, if tragic, because we get to see Nina's backstory, which is very tragic, and really all their backstories are. But I think hers is especially tragic because she's such a nice person, whereas all the other people kind of got jaded and became kind of evil. She really didn't. And so I think it's just so tragic that she had to go through what she went through. And the fact that she didn't turn heel, as it were, and get revenge on anybody who treated her badly or anything kind of makes it tragic, especially because she died before she got a chance to do that. On the other hand, you could say it's not tragic because she persevered and didn't let it change her and all of that. But it just comes off so tragic because she never got redemption either, I don't think. And she wound up at some point apparently committing a crime in order to get locked up at Bel Rev. So, and we don't get to see what that was. So I don't know. It's just tragic. It's tragic all the way around. I hate that they killed her. I thought she was a great character. And, you know, it really affected the bride, which I think was cool because it shows that she has some humanity and that she's not really a monster, even though she behaves like one most of the time. So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed how it turned out that this plot is very layered. In other words, you really have to pay attention to what happened. And what happened is Cersei got a vision that the princess was going to bring about the end of the world. And she told Amanda that, but then got replaced by Clayface in order to discredit her so that it would throw everyone off of the princess's trail. And the bride explains it in the episode in a kind of a funny way. So I thought that was cool. I really liked that she just blew her away for killing her friend and not for any other reason, not to save the world, not because she's a bad person, but just because she was taking revenge. I thought that was wild. I continued to enjoy David Harbour's Eric Frankenstein. I think the character is great and everything he does in this is super cool and fun. I'm really glad that he's not dead. I do want to say that the soundtrack for this episode, and really the series so far, but this episode in particular, I thought was great. The music that they use is really awesome, you know, the contemporary music. I found that the animation in this episode in particular, by the way, was very elegant, or the storyboarding, I guess you should say, or the story beat. Because there's a point where they show the princess diving off of this high tower into the pool where she's going to do her morning swim. And they juxtapose that with Nina jumping into the local waterway for the first time when she ran away from home. And I just thought that was an elegant use of visuals to catch the audience's attention. And there were other elegant moments as well when Nina is stalking the bride underwater. The way that she swims and the way that she moves herself into position, I thought was very elegantly done. There was another really elegant animation when the bride kills the princess. The way they show the bullet slow motion fly into her head and push her head back and the blood splatter. I mean, you know, it's gross, of course, and gory, but I love that. But putting the gore aside, it was just elegantly animated, I thought, and just very well done. And, you know, the season on the whole had a lot of badassery. This episode had a lot of badassery, and I was loving that. So, you know, I think it's a really good show. And this episode, again, in particular, was very moving with the bride being upset at Nina's death and, you know, what it drove her to have to do. So just an all-around great episode and a really good season of television. I'm looking forward to, you know, what they do with the new members, Nosferatu and Kales, and how they incorporate King Shark. That'll be cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do with the newly upgraded GI robot, who is apparently not dead, which is great. I'd love to see Nina come back somehow, that she's not really dead. Who knows if that's even possible, but time will tell. You know, that's really all there is to say. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.